It's 5:30. I'll call the meeting to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Mosel, will you read our mission statement?
The mission of the Marshall Public School District is to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success.
Thank you. The next item is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Jeff and seconded by Sarah Brink to approve the agenda. Any changes or discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. The agenda is approved. Our next item is our Tiger Spotlight. This is something that we started last month where we recognize kids from each building. So the way we do this, as I call your name, if you could stand and I'll read a little bit about you, and then at the end, we're all going to come forward and get your picture taken together. So our first one is Na In Tu, and I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, but could Na stand? Okay. From Parkside, Na was nominated by Miss Brigger. Na deserves to be spotlighted as a terrific Tiger rider because he is constantly working on being a better rider every single day. He learns from his mistakes and works very hard at making his riding longer and better in every piece. He has also been working on his handwriting skills with much determination. Na does a great job of using the new words we are learning in school in his writing too. Na even helps other students with spelling. Congratulations, Na. Next one, Viviana Martin. From Southview, she was nominated by Ms. Fossum. There are two students that are new to the country and don't know any English. Viviana has been so helpful this year. She has befriended these students and has been so helpful to all of us by interpreting. Viviana is also very excited to teach these students English words and letters. This would have been much harder this year if it wasn't for Viviana. Congratulations.
You're a teacher already, Viviana. Way to go.
Abde Rahman Uzman. Okay, he's not here. I will read his bio anyway. From the middle school, was nominated by Ms. Moss. Abde always comes to school with a positive and ready-to-learn attitude. He contributes to class discussion with thoughtful comments and questions. He is a good, compassionate, kind leader among his classmates. Abde does a great job asking questions when he doesn't understand a concept and will even come in after school for extra help. Abde continually brings his best each day and pushes his peers to be better as well. We love the smile he has each day and the encouragement he is to others. Abde Rahman Uzman's teachers are grateful to have such a hardworking, kind, and positive student. Congratulations, Abde. Liv Dames. Guys, stand, Liv. From the high school, nominated by Ms. Basut. Olivia is a phenomenal student who goes above and beyond each day. She puts her best effort into each assignment, volunteers often in class, and is a leader with her peers. Additionally, she is not afraid to advocate for her learning and wants to do well. She follows directions the first time and is great at asking questions if she has any. Congratulations, Liv. Misty Stark from Maytech, nominated by Mrs. Elton. Misty has gone to great lengths to get extra notes and ask questions to make sure she knows what she is doing in geometry class. She is pleasant, kind, and comes to class prepared to learn. She has rocked everything she has done this year so far and is a joy to have in class. I couldn't be more proud of her. Misty is a caring student that wants to see others do well. She has been working hard to do well in all of her classes. Since her enrollment at Maytech, she has been an advocate for herself and doing well academically. Congratulations, Misty. If all the students could come forward, we're going to take a picture. Oh, stand in front of the tiger.
Banner?
Yep.
Oh, sure. That's seven. Right.
You gonna?
Yeah, parents, if you want to snap a picture, feel free as well.
Well done.
Students, congratulations. Very proud of all of you. You're welcome to stay for the entire board meeting if you like, but if you don't want to stay for it, you're welcome to leave as well. Perfectly well understand. Right. We are going to go through the audit next, so
Listen to
if you're really interested.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is a public forum. If there anybody from the public like to approach the board. Item number 7 is our audit review. Welcome, Tamara.
I don't know why nobody wants to stay for this.
We stayed.
We're here.
You did. You're
We're
here.
here.
All right. So my name's Tamara Dietz. I'm a partner with Hoffman and Brobst, and I'm here to present the audit report for Marshall Public Schools year ending June 30th of 23. The district received an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion for this year's audit. To start out, we'll take a look at some of the financial highlights for fiscal year 23. As the district completed the year, its governmental funds, which are your general fund, food service, community service, building construction, and debt service funds, in total reported a decrease of approximately $794,000 in its combined fund balance. That brings the year end to about $13.6 million for total fund balance. That decrease is mostly due to a decrease in the building construction fund from capital purchases, partially offset by the issuance of school building bonds and positive operations in the debt service fund. The general fund, excluding transportation and operating capital activities, fund balance increased about $133,000, so that's up to $5.89 million. That fund balance amounts to approximately 16.7% of annual district expenditures. That exceeds the district's fund balance goal, which is a minimum of 8% of expenditures. That approximate $133,000 increase is mostly due to an increase in student counts and an increase in interest income, partially offset by salary raises, expenditures related to increased student counts, and some costs covering CTI were paid out of that fund as well. The district issued $1,065,000 of GO school building bonds, Series 2023A, in June of 2023. Noticed a typo on there. Proceeds of that issue are being used to finance the acquisition and betterment of school sites and facilities in the district. The district entered into right-of-use lease agreements for office equipment and athletic space during the year. The cost associated with the office equipment right-of-use lease was right at about $6,600, and the cost associated with the athletic space right-of-use lease was about $68,000. The district entered into subscription-based information technology arrangements, which we affectionately call SABITAs, for IT software and electronic curriculum. The cost of the IT software was approximately $33,000, and the cost associated with the electronic curriculum was about $116,000. And we'll, on the next slide, I'll talk about these SABITAs. This is a new term, so something else we get to implement. Seems like one every year lately, so this is the new one for this year. The district was also recognized with a Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting for fiscal year 22. So congratulations on that as well. So SABITAs, fell under GASB 96. I think it's about every year there's at least one new one lately. GASB used to be volunteer-based and now they're paid. So it kind of correlates with they need to maybe show something for the work that they're doing. So we've been seeing quite a few. They're just trying to make things more transparent. But with this statement, it requires an establishment of a subscription asset and a subscription liability when that's present. Sometimes it won't be because you pay for things up front, which we've seen with a lot of our districts with like curriculum, you pay for it all up front, but you can maybe use it over 6-8 years for that electronic piece of it. So that's where this comes into play. The statement requires recognition of certain subscription assets and liabilities that previously were classified as expenditures at the time of payment, and also requires a disclosure of descriptive information. So we added probably about 1.5 pages to your audit report. Beginning governmental activities net position has been restated, showing an increase of $154,000 as a result of implementing this standard. Looking ahead at the district's future, in 2023, the legislature approved foundation formula increases of 4% for fiscal year 24 and 2% for fiscal year 25. This has a positive effect for school district operations and maintaining a balanced budget. The legislature also approved free breakfast and lunch to all K through 12 students, regardless of family income, during the 23 legislative session. Along with these, long-term facilities maintenance was approved back in 2015. It began in the 2016-2017 school year, and it increases per pupil unit each year. Economic conditions in Minnesota have been changing, so hopefully the legislature will continue to have options available to assist in providing programs and support for education. COVID-19, we keep bringing it up, I feel like, but COVID-19 related funding once again played a factor in fiscal year 23, but it will be discontinued by the end of fiscal year 24. The additional revenue from any CARES Act funding offset most of your additional expenditures for personal protective equipment, transportation, and personnel. This graph shows the district's enrollment, so we go back 1 year to fiscal year 22, show 23, and then projections for the next 3 years going forward. So as you can see, the district's future projections reflect slight fluctuations in enrollment. This impacts the district's funding, since enrollment is what determines most of your funding components. Maintaining enrollment stability and growing it continues to be one of the district's goals. You can see there was a slight increase from 22 to 23. Okay, so the following graphs that I'll be going through reflect the general fund excluding transportation and operating capital. The fund balances, which are in the red or the orange color up there, increased from 22 to 23. That increase is a function of revenues and other financing sources being greater than your expenditures. That's mostly due to an increase in student counts and interest income, partially offset by salary raises, expenditures relating to increased student counts, and covering some of the CTI construction costs. Your adjusted cash balances, which are in the green, also increased with the fund balances. If it was a true cash basis, everything would be equal. Your cash would equal what your fund balance is, but it's not, because we have accounts payable, accounts receivable, so just timing of things where it might show up in the fund balance doesn't exactly reflect in the cash yet, but we did see an increase in both balances this year. The two graphs here show your general fund revenues by source, fiscal year 23 at the top and 22 on the bottom. You can see that your largest source of revenue is your state revenue, which is the gray piece of it. That's consistent with every other district. Most of our funds come from the state. The federal sources, which is in the brown piece of the pie, are one of the smallest pieces, but they cause some of the biggest compliance requirements. So this is where the single audits come in. If you have federal expenditures over $750,000, a single audit is required. There is some rumbling that might be increased to $1 million, but that probably still, you'd the district would still need to have a single audit. But you have been subject to a single audit in the past. COVID-19 has added to the programs that we have to test, so it has brought some more fun on the single audit side with new programs being tested. Your federal revenue increased 1%, but that's about $690,000 of your revenue from 22 to 23. Most of that was COVID-19 funding. This graph shows a 5-year history of your revenues by source. Again, you can see the state funding in the blue is the largest piece of the funding. The higher state revenue funding over the years has been primarily due to an increase in the basic formula from the state, along with increasing student counts. The increase in the formula is nice because even if your student counts stay the same, you're going to receive more money as those formulas increase. In fiscal year 21, there was a decrease in the state funding. That's due to safe school aid and safety grants received in fiscal year 20, and then a slight decrease in general ed aid with less students. This rebounded in fiscal year 22, as you can see, and then increased into 23. In 2021 through 2023, here you can see the higher federal revenue. That's the brown line on the right side of the columns, and that's federal funding increasing due to COVID-19 funds. So you can see the significant jump from 20 to 21 there. And then we'll move on to expenditures. These two graphs again show the last 2 years, 23 on the top, 22 on the bottom. The largest expenditures to any school should be your salaries and benefits, which are the red and the yellow. Your job is to educate students. You need the manpower to do that. So in turn, we see salaries and benefits. The increase in equipment is due to using general funds for some of the CTI construction and the purchase of a special education vehicle. As you can see, expenditure categories in the general fund have remained similar relative to total expenditures year over year. We usually don't see a lot of fluctuation in those, but a 1% can be quite a bit of money. And then this graph is going to show your 5-year history of expenditures by object code. The expenditures have remained consistent year over year, as you can see. The two biggest expenditures, wages and benefits, the orange and the yellow. You'll see that repeated in this graph as well. The increase in fiscal year 20 sites, building and equipment, which is the green line kind of in the middle there. So you'll see a jump up in 2020 and then a jump up again in 23. So in fiscal year 20, that was safety grant projects at the middle school in Westside, a repair to the high school gym for fire and water damage. And then in 2023, that spike is mostly due to your special education vehicle and then the CTI construction costs. In 2022, other expenditures, which is the brown column on the very right, increased with the implementation of GASB 87, which was the lease standard that we had last year. So with that, payments are coded differently. They flipped from being in the purchase service category into being shown like a debt service. So that was a jump up in that line. If we look at the areas or programs in which expenditures are attributable, this graph will depict that. Each program is at the bottom, and then the colors represent the last 5 years. Instructional costs, which include regular education and exceptional instruction, are and have been the majority of the district's expenditures. And again, that's similar to other districts. That's what we would expect there. And then you can see same reason for the site buildings and equipment section or program there. You see a spike up in 20 and then a spike in 23 as we had discussed before. Regular instruction and exceptional instruction is where we would expect to see most of your expenditures, like I said, because that relates directly to the students. Then as we closed out the year, looking at your budget to actual in your general fund, you can see the budgets for the general fund excluding transportation and operating capital were very close to your actual results. So on the very first section is your revenue, your revised budget versus your actual. You came out 702,000 more in revenue than was anticipated, so a 2% difference there. Expenditures, you were about $470,000 higher than expected, so 1.35% difference. And then when we look at expenditures as a percentage of fund balance, 23 actual was about 16.7% fund balance versus expenditures. You budgeted 16.26%. So we only had about a 0.44% difference. And then just as a note, these don't include right of use lease activity, so anything new, any new leases that come up, we have to show it as a revenue and an expenditure of a sort. So that's just excluded from here. It just nets to zero. Then moving on from the general fund, the other funds for the district, click through these. The food service fund revenue for fiscal year 23 totaled $2,023,000 and expenditures were about $2,037,000. That resulted in a fund balance decrease of about $14,400. The district contracts with an outside vendor, Taher, for the operation of its food service program and receives financial guarantees for the annual operation of that program. The fund balance decreased due to the purchase of an oven. For the most part, the June 30th, 23 food service fund balance is at about $856,000. In the community service fund, total revenues and other financing sources exceeded expenditures by $50,000, resulting in an increase in the same amount to the June 30th fund balance. The main reason for that increase was positive operations in general community education, adult basic education, and early childhood family education programs. That was partially offset by negative operations in the school readiness program. The community service fund balance at the end of the year is $922,800. The building construction fund expenditures exceeded revenues and other financing sources by about $1,440,000. That decrease is due to capital expenditures offset by proceeds received from the issuance of bonds. The fund balance at June 30th for the building construction fund is at about $1,583,000. And the last two funds, the debt service fund revenues exceeded expenditures by about $556,000. That increase is primarily due to statutory levy requirements and the mandated funding of escrow accounts. At the end of the year, the fund balance for the debt service fund is at $2,682,000. The OPEB revocable trust fund incurred a net $52,000 gain on investments and investment expenses and paid the general fund approximately that same amount for employee benefits. At the end of the year, the net position for this fund is at about $740,000. And that concludes my portion of the audit report. Just wanted to thank Dion, Liana, the board members that we had to talk to, all the HR and other finance people that we had to work with, get information from. So we really appreciated it. Always seems to go smoothly, so we're able to get it all done. Any questions at all? Okay,
Thank you, Tamara.
yes. I know everybody looks forward to it every
Right.
Next item, number 8 is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Bill Moso and seconded by Sarah Runcie to approve the consent agenda. I'll call for the vote. That is approved. Next item is our financial approval of the bills. I'll need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Jeff.
Second.
Motion by Jeff and seconded by Sarah Brink to approve the bills for November. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out a few. On page 1 of the bills, there's the Minnesota unemployment. That's for the third quarter. It was a little over 163,000. That's mainly for that new law with the summer unemployment. Our second quarter was a little over 26,000. We're doing surveys with the state, hoping to get most of that back in funding, at least for this year. Fund 4, you'll see a larger amount. That's our quarterly payments for ABE and their partners, school districts. And then as we're winding down the CTI construction, see that building funds a little larger also, doing some of the final bigger payments on that. And we're close to some of the final payments on that one.
Thank you, Dion. There's a motion by Jeff and seconded by Sarah Brink to approve the bills for this month. Any further discussion? We'll call for the vote. And they are approved. Next item is the treasurer's report. Any discussion on that?
Just point out kind of what we had seen when we put the preliminary budget together. We're at that positive side at the fund balance, where previous years we're at the negative. So it's good we're heading in the right direction.
Very good. Thanks, Dion. Next item is board reports and updates.
The Finance Committee was able to meet last week. We reviewed the audit and the actions related to that. We also reviewed the request that was approved in the consent agenda for an additional junior high wrestling coach, which we think will really be positive for that program. And then I will be participating in the delegate assembly next weekend. That relates to the Minnesota School Board Association voting on which proposals to support for their legislative advocates for the state board association. So I'll be doing that next Friday, Saturday.
Thank you, Sarah. Anybody else? Moving on to item number 18, the superintendent's report. Jeremy?
Okay, a few things to share today. Each year we update our World's Best Workforce Plan and summarize the goal outcomes from that previous year. So Beth and I have been working on our updated World's Best Workforce Plan. We'll have our community meeting prior to our next board meeting. The goals are around all students ready for kindergarten, reading well by third grade. That's going to change obviously with the new READ Act. Closing achievement gap, college and career ready, and all students graduating. Each district within the state identifies goals around those 5 areas. We've worked really hard to make sure that our goals are aligned directly to our SCIP plans and the overall strategic plan. So I feel like we're in a good spot with all of those goals. Early Childhood shares that the week of November 13th was Kindness Week. Kindness Week included some dress-up days for all the students in early childhood, so those are always fun over there. They also had turkey bingo in early childhood. It's been a long-standing tradition, Marshall, that happened last Friday. Preschool families donated items. They had some raffle baskets, and businesses and establishments donated gift cards, etc. Hy-Vee had some pizza that they sold during the event that early childhood sold, and then Turkey Valley Farms donated some turkeys for the bingo, so they had some fun prizes for the kids. They had a really good evening Friday night with that. Parkside shares once a quarter. They have a school-wide Tiger Pride celebration. This quarter, they had the Marshall Tiger football captains join them at Parkside. They drew names out of their tower of winners, of Tiger Pride winners, and the winners got to decorate cookies with the Tiger football players. So that was a lot of fun at Parkside that day. She's got some pictures in her board report for that. She also shares that teachers at Parkside are working to learn more about their students' needs and develop their capacity to meet those needs through studying the science of reading. In addition, developed a schedule allowing every classroom teacher some time to specifically work with the instructional coach, talking about student progress, identifying needs, and determining next steps. It's been a good piece in that process at Parkside to help keep moving forward there. Southview has a few things to share. First thing he shared is they are getting close to the end of their book battles. So students at Southview Participate in book battles by creating a team of 4. And then they have a list of books that the librarian has put together, media specialists put together. The kids all read those books. They go up against other teams in the school and answer questions about the books in like a trivia style game. So the 4th graders are wrapping up. 3rd graders are just kind of getting going with theirs. Those book battles are a lot of fun if you've never gotten to watch one of those. Southview recently completed their first day of 2 all-day bar trainings. This is part of that grant that they received. That took place, this first day training took place on November 7th. They had piloting teachers, 2 from each grade level, along with the SEL teachers and Peter, the principal. They attended the training put on by the bar coach. They're going to start to implement some of the processes that they talked about, and then the trainer comes back in January at Southview to finish the training there. Southview also shares that Kau Kailea Yang is making a visit to Southview. She is a Hmong American writer, filmmaker, and teacher. She's reading one of her children's books to the entire student body, as well as taking part in a Q&A session. They're going to do that over here at the middle school and the theater, so they can have everybody at one time and get to meet her. So that's always a fun event when they do the visiting author for the kids. Middle school shares that the kindness closet is continuing here. The life skills and some social skills classes are continuing with organizing, cleaning, stocking, helping families and friends find items in that kindness closet. Special ed students are paired with general ed peers to make connections with this project. Students are learning empathy, patience, ability to work with others who are different than themselves. It's really been a good project at that level. High school, Brian shares some data around their academic performance. Shares that the data really shows students are doing well when compared to last year. We look at both the cohort from previous years and then over at some average data. Some specific points he calls out: percentage of students passing their classes in all grades improved over the 3-week and 6-week grading period this last quarter. And then as well as by each grade level, he calls out some specifics within his report of some improvement students are making. So some good data to look at. I know there's a lot of things that take place with that. We talked specifically about some of the work with the BAR program that certainly builds into that work at the high school. He also shares that on Tuesday, October 31st, the Honor Society hosted an annual blood drive. There were 68 students and staff who donated blood at that event. Taher recently had an event where they brought Chef Tony Menk to the district. At the high school level, he was there on the 7th through the 9th. With the FACS classes, they prepared some parts of the special Thursday meal, and then on Thursday they served either seasoned pork or chipotle chicken nachos with fresh pico de gallo. Students thought that was a fun event. He also was at the elementary schools where they served some special fruit dishes that they did there. So fun to have him come and do that with the kids. Activities. We've had a busy fall with our activities, had a lot of successes. So Mitch shares a lot of those in his report. With soccer, both the boys and girls had great seasons. The boys finished the year 12-5 and 11 with an 11-1 conference record. Girls finished with a record of 6-5-5, and both teams improved throughout the year. Had a great participation numbers in both boys and girls soccer. Cross country, also both the boys and girls took home conference championships. Boys qualified for state and finished 3rd, and the girls took home the gold with the first championship in girls cross country for our Tigers team. So really exciting for the cross country teams both, with the girls winning for the first time. Football, Tigers took home another district championship this fall, and they fell to Hutch in the section championship. Volleyball, again, took a state championship. They swept Delano to claim their 3rd straight title this fall. Exciting tournament and great experience for the students, coaches, and community. Several team members were named to all tournament and all state teams, and the Tiger Pep Band was able to attend 2 of the games as well. So that was a fun weekend, and we had a lot of kids and staff up at that event. Fall musical, tonight is actually the last night. They start in probably about an hour. Dan Smith put together a great show again this year. Secrets Every Smart Traveler Should Know was performed. There were 4 nights that started last Friday. So if you haven't caught it, I encourage you to check it out after the board meeting tonight. Winter activities, as of tonight, everything is up and running for the winter. We have already hosted a girls hockey game. Everything, it kind of rolls right from one season to the next. Last thing he shares at the Big South Leadership Conference, we took 10 juniors and sophomores to the conference. It was in Redwood Falls. It was a great opportunity for student athletes to learn about being a leader and developing personal strengths. So that was a good event. Beth, in her report, shares that Wednesday, during this last month, every Wednesday during Ramp Up, they had different businesses invited to come in and share what they do. So career fair kind of with students. Students sign up for a different interest area that they have, go to the classroom, and different presentations took place in every classroom. Beth and I have gotten to do that over the last few weeks. It's been really fun just talking with the kids about careers in education. We talked about licensed and non-licensed and try to encourage kids to consider careers in education. Beth also shares that the first MPS Advisory Committee meeting will take place on the 28th. Committee is made up of parents, faculty, students, and community members. The first meeting, they'll be going through the World's Best Workforce Plan that we've been working on and gathering feedback around the 5 areas within that plan. Finally, Mary Kay shares in her report that the Project Success after-school program for grades K through 6 started in mid-October. Teachers provide reteach, new instruction, social emotional learning, and life skills. Emily Carroll is the coordinator for that program. She provides a theme each month along with some fun activities for students and teachers. A lot of fun things taking place there. Dion's got the report for his areas.
I also included some information on Chef Tony visiting the schools, and we did, just wanted to point out, we did visit with Taher and Chef Tony about coming back to the middle school and Southview locations to do something fun, and they were more than willing to do that. I think that's going to happen after the first of the year. Each year we put together the numbers. Preston from the city gives us on what we've saved out at the high school using the pond compared to actually pumping water ourselves, and those numbers are pretty cool to see. We used a combined 10 million gallons this summer. Our total bill, if we would have went through utilities, would have been around 77,000 between the city and the school. Ours alone would have been close to 47,000. Instead, we just pay for the electricity from the pump, which was around $1,800. So it's quite the project that's been going on, and there's a couple of numbers over the last 6 years that are pretty cool. Shared just a couple of pictures, one of the storage unit out at the CTI location. We're getting closer on that one, hopefully completion towards the middle of December. They're planning on pouring some concrete tomorrow inside. And then just put some pictures of the new bleachers that are on the gymnastics side of the shelf of the middle school. You get a chance to walk down there. They're a lot like the high school ones, but a lot safer and more accessible than the old ones we had. And then the last page I had, just we're doing some shuffling with our vehicles. Our driver's ed car we had brought in, it needs some repairs. The cost of the repairs are actually more than the value of the car. So we were fortunate enough to have some special ed COVID funds, as Tamara had pointed out, that we used to purchase a newer special ed vehicle. The special ed vehicle we have, because it was purchased with special ed funds, we're able to purchase that with general ed funds for the value of the car. Both are technically general ed funds anyway. So what we're planning on doing is purchasing that vehicle with general ed funds. We'll be able to then use it for general ed. We can still use it for special ed. The only time that you really use that second vehicle for special education is for field trips. So it'll still be available, just be able to be used for general ed also. By doing so, we're going to move our mail route van to driver's ed. We had already put in that second break for driver's ed so they could have a third vehicle. Unfortunately, one of the vehicles is now out of commission, but fortunately we have that one, so that one will get moved to driver's ed. Since we are the fiscal host, we own the driver's ed vehicles anyway. So there really isn't a transfer of title there. And then we'll continue to look for another 10-passenger van, which we've been doing for the last couple of years. It's pretty painful how rare those vehicles are, but we really use that one 10-passenger van we have a lot, so we'd like to look for another 10-passenger and not go with something with 8. So just wanted to give you guys an update of those shifting around. Oh, and the driver's ed car, it's out of commission. We're planning on bringing that out to the CTI to have the automotive class be able to work on an actual working car and look at that one.
Thank you, Dion. Next item, number 13, are discussion items. The second review of policies 506 and 613. Any questions on those? 13.2, World's Best Workforce Progress Report. Kind of gave your
Kind of
on
share
your
just a little bit.
report.
I'll just share. These are the goals from last year. So we put in the data. These data points come off of mostly off the skips from last year. So we just are required each year to summarize this for the state, and then there's a report actually that we're working on. We submit by December 15th, going through. First on here is all the world's best workforce goals and the achievement and integration goals. So we're looking at what we did with that. The one thing that stood out as we went going through is looking at our achievement gap. We've got goals and reducing the gap with both reading and math for all students tested in looking at free and reduced students versus non-free and reduced students. And while both groups showed a higher percentage of students passing, our non-free and reduced group grew at a quicker rate than our free and reduced group. So we've got some work to do there just to evaluate that. It was by a very small piece, but something that still we continue to dig into with the admin team and think about how we close both groups at equal rates.
Thanks, Jeremy. Next item is a superintendent summary of the Superintendent Williams' 23-24 evaluation. I met with Jeremy and we went through it together. I will read this. A performance review for Superintendent Jeremy Williams is now complete for the 23-24 school year. As part of the performance review process, an online evaluation was completed by the school board, district office staff, and school administration. The evaluation consisted of 5 sections with various rating areas in each section. A ranking scale of 1 to 4 was used, with 1 being performance is developing and 4 being performance is distinguished. Below are the school board's cumulative ratings for each category during the 23-24 for Superintendent Williams. Leadership, district culture, and communications, a 3.23. Policy, governance, political influence, and law, 3.18. Strategic planning and organizational management, 3.14. School culture and learning, 3.04. And management resources, 3.09, with all performance measure categories of 3.14. The ratings and process indicate that overall Superintendent Williams met or exceeded expectations in each of the categories during the 23-24 school year. The school board was pleased with his performance and the work that was done, focusing on student achievement. So we thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Moving on to our action items, approval of 24 through the 27 Superintendent Williams' contract. I will make a motion.
Second.
Motion by myself and seconded by Jeff. Any further discussion? If not, I will call for the vote. What happened?
I just crashed, so I say yes.
Okay. Well, let me move on if it's not everybody has voted. Maybe I can vote for you. You said yes. There. I didn't know I could do that. Our next item is approval of the 22-23 audit.
So move.
Second?
Motion by Bill Swope and seconded by Sarah Runcie to approve the audit, which we heard earlier. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Yes.
Thanks, Jeff. And that is approved. Next action item, approval to change the school board meeting time from 5 to 5:30 PM on Monday, December 4th.
So moved.
Seconds.
Motion by Bill Molso and seconded by Sarah Brink to move December 4th meeting to 5:30. Any further discussion?
Just share that night we'll start our meeting at 5:30. That is truth and taxation night. So we're gonna pop popcorn and maybe not quite, but that starts at 6 o'clock. So we'll complete other agenda items prior to the truth and taxation presentation.
I'll call for the vote.
Yes.
approved. Our next item, is that, okay, the meeting is adjourned.
Back on.